Making her own tribe now. Titali! Whoa! Shaddoll! Fight, fight, fight! You messed with the wrong Nico!
If it huffs or slithers, it's my kind of critter.
Give them the angry tail! Roar! Danger, Nico! Nico goes up, colors come down! So much.
You must be so strong, surviving all on your own.
I am not alone, child. Be a good beast and get back in your cage.
Nico does not like smelly cage or smelly mans. Nico is here! Or is she? Show them real claws, Nidalee!
Gladly.
Eva! Nico attack! Ataku! Oh yeah! Good guys win! Woo woo!
Good afternoon, Legends of Runeterra community. Today is the day. It is Sunday, June 25th. First off, Pride, happy Pride. Secondly, today is the Lancers Eternal Championship #1. We have been prepping all month for this. All the players who have reached top 4 have joined us in this tournament to find out who is the best of the best. Kai, are you excited?
I'm super excited. I'm really happy to see all of these champions that we've gotten to know for the last number of weeks just duke it out in this absolute heavyweight championship, in essence, of Legends of Runeterra tournament play. And I'm really excited to see how the Eternal format wraps up. Of course, we're seeing a lot of Smear Seraphine in terms of decks and all of that, but what else these champions might bring, who knows? Answers might surprise us or might be expected. Either way, high quality all around.
Yeah, we definitely have a few 1-0s. We have quite a few decks that everyone's bringing. We, of course, like you said, Smear Seraphine, gotta bring it. It is what it is. But then everyone kind of brought their, their own little spice and versions. Before we get into everything, I do want to give a very, very special shout out. All of the tournaments that we've had so far for Lancers, whether it be the Standard or the Turtle, all the way up leading to this championship, have been sponsored by one of our very dear friends. They go by Love Helmet, and they are part of the original Lancers community when we were actually doing our in-house tournaments. And so for all this time, they've been helping us sponsor these tournaments so that we can give back to the community and involve everybody. So huge shout out to Love Helmet. Much love. All the hearts.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now,
Greatly appreciated.
Kai, like you said, we have some heavyweights. Like,
We sure do.
Flow from the first lands. You must know me, little one. You must. give.
Betrayal buried Shrima. Hope revived it.
Providence. No quarter!
Kindle, did you wander off again?
If I'm forgotten, then no!
One life in exchange for another. Return to dust.
Look upon me.
Soldiers of Demacia! Stand with me!
The expanse of eternity stretched out before me.
Demacia!
Better get the forge going.
Quick hands make quick work.
Ever been to a blacksmith before?
What delightful agony we shall inflict.
precious. It must be protected.
This too shall end.
Step lightly.
You're gonna get burned.
We weren't expecting flawless.
More air, more comb.
Let me in. You are better than this.
Cursed relics!
His story lives on.
War is a curse I cannot omit.
Here, let me see that.
Oh yes, she does our visitors.
Ever been to a blacksmith before?
I am ascended.
Demacians, fight for your king.
They will never die because I will never let them. I am freed.
Away with you. No quarter!
Hammer, tongue, anvil.
Perhaps they realize they've took the wrong turn, didn't you?
What a game, what a game. Like, that was so expertly played by both players. Samsans and Trust were really, like, making sure to calculate, okay, what do I need to kill here? What do I need to block? Not gonna lie, that Troll Chant top deck, perfect. That was chef's kiss. We really needed to block just that one little titty bitty bit of damage. Oh my gosh, that was so good.
Yeah, the Troll Champ was definitely a game saver for sure. The overwhelm as well from samsans, knowing that you could continue to play those Alanis, could keep applying pressure, but they could just couldn't find that one little bit of damage. And that is also because, you know, Shurima and Shadow Isles aren't very well known for their overhead damage. They don't typically have that sort of pings to face, although they do have those things available. So let's say you're running a Ruinous Path in Shurima. That is a card. Like when you slay a unit, you drain 2 to get that extra bit of damage. Or in Shadow Isles, the first card that comes to mind is Astral Fox, which is a 3/3 fearsome that deals 3 to Nexus, or Doom Beast. But that's not those aren't typically cards that you want to see run in Nasus Thresh. And I wouldn't say like, if they had just drawn the Ruinous Path or they had just drawn the Astral Fox, they would have won the game. But then that also bricks out the rest of the deck. So really just kind of trying to play to apply the most pressure and trust, deflected it with ease. Well, not with ease, actually. Came down to the wire.
Yeah, we can say it was ease because that was to the wire. Trust was, I wouldn't be surprised if Trust was sweating. Because, oh man, we had to really make sure that we were choosing which units we had to strike, right? We ended up surprisingly hitting the Gnosis instead of the Thresh there, which I thought was interesting. I would have been inclined to strike the Thresh, end up working out because it forces the Gnosis out. You're like, all right, it's already out. I can now deal with it here. You don't have to worry about it again. Ended up deciding, okay, at this point, I need to cataclysm something after the challenger units came down, and samsans was going to be able to drag the challenge, all the fearsome blockers away because we had the Gnosis on board. Being able to calculate that and be like, okay, I need to like figure out something here. Could have chose the scout. To end up initiating a rally. Ended up not doing so, chose a knockout to get another unit out on board, which I think was good, right? Because now that forces samsans to block with the Gnosis, right? Get that lower HP, meaning that we can now go ahead and block the Gnosis and kill it if there is no atrocity.
Yeah, that's the line you have to play to. I mean, it really does kind of hurt samsans to not find an atrocity at any point during that game. And the fact that Trust was able to actually deal with all of samsans' champions throughout that match was monumental. The fact that you're able to remove all 3 Threshes, I think all 3 Nasus as well, maybe 2.
Yeah, I think we were at 2. We shuffled one back in.
That's right. We did shuffle one back in with the Siphoning Strike. But basically all of the champions. For samsans, that is your top end. That is your late game finisher, outside of course, Atrocity, which maybe we're talking about Atrocity so much and it's not being run in this deck. But I'm going to double check real quick just to make sure that I am not crazy. Yeah, so they're running 2 of Atrocity in this deck, which totally makes sense. And finding either of those copies would have been fine. But the fact that we found all 3 copies of Glimpse Beyond. We shortened our deck a little bit by using the 1 of Rite of Calling to get that Nasus out on board. Then you shuffled it back in with the Siphoning Strike to make it just absolutely massive. It has Spell Shield. It is ready to rumble. There are no Frostbites. There are no Troll Chants or anything that can possibly detriment the Nasus here. Finding the Atrocity would have just won the game for samsans, and they never found it. And
we did what we needed to do, right? We ended up drawing. We saw, we were like, okay, we made it here. They're kind of getting their units back. They're getting some good top decks. At this point, I need to just draw like a madman. Ended up going so far as to using the what was that champion spell that draws?
Rite of Calling or
Rite of Calling, yeah. Ended up even going as far as using Rite of Calling, even though we had champions, like we didn't need another one. But it's just the fact that it helps in the deck so we can eventually find that top end Fishner. GG's to both players. That was really good. samsans will be going down to the losers bracket. Trustiano is going to be moving forward. Now, it's been a long month since we've been in Eternal. We're about to head back into Standard. What were some decks that you felt like really stood out? Aside from maybe Samira Seraphine, do you have any like maybe favorites that you personally had?
Darn. I mean, I'm always biased towards Talia Ziggs. I will always hold that card. That deck will always hold a special place in my heart. And I think it performed well in the opens that I attempted in. The first open, I actually went 6-3, which is pretty decent overall for bringing. I brought Talia Ziggs, Jace Lux, and Allow ETF with Ionia. I was on some madman type lineup.
That is a madman type lineup.
But I went 6-3, which is hilarious. So I'm valid for that.
I like it.
But I think Jace Lux honestly did come out as one of the standout contenders for me because Okay, so in Samir Seraphine, you have that kind of like one turn activation. It can just kind of win matches out, right? Speaking of which, Croc AI against Anfitriao. And JSLux is in a little bit in a bit of a similar boat, but I feel like it's a little more fair. It's like, hey, I am going to play a 6-mana spell on you, and you are going to die. It is announcing that in a massive billboard to your face, and then it just feels really satisfying to get those spell combos out. So I think that was a standout for me, or at least a surprise contender. Overall.
Yeah, I like it. Now check this out. We got Plunder in the match right now against Samira Seraphine. I've always wondered what this matchup would look like. I thought about like, what Plunder? Like, I mean, they get these 6/6 down. By the time they get their 6/6s, if it's around like turn 5, if it's after turn 6, and I have Sejuani, I could just freeze them out and we're good to go. You know what I mean? But now we actually get to see it live. Don't really have much in the hand going on. We have some elusives, so we're all going to be able to draw some spells. We do have Sejuani, which I feel like is probably the most important champion in this deck.
These Zaps Griffins are going to be great next turn. Refills your spell mana to full, gets you a spell out of hand. Croc trying to look for more answers, finds the Samira off of the time trick, so even though we traded it last turn to get the Flare in order to save the Ravenous Flock for a champion later down the line, Anfitriao does have a visibly better board for now, and with Guardian being at 5 right now, it's not something that Croc AI can play immediately into response of whatever Anfitriao decides to develop.
I mean, I think we have Disintegrate, right? So we're not too worried about some of these bigger units. We already know what we can do with Disintegrate. The only thing is we don't have an enabler. If we pick Death Lotus, we do end up finding one. Okay, Seraphine. We're getting ever so close to the combo. We do have the copy spells.
Seraphine could be an enabler. It's not. That's Celestial Blessing.
It's possible though. It's possible. You never know with RNG.
Jury Rig is also taken out of Croc AI's list, so Anfitriao does have that burst speed blocker for these Plastic Guardians later in the game. But man, Plunder, this is a list that we have not seen in a while.
In a hot minute, and it used to be a staple. Look at this. The Plunder aggro. Okay, Celestial Blessing, so we can block. I like it. Get rid of the Plunder unit.
But man,
that's 8 damage, and we know this deck doesn't have any healing aside from if you're getting it off of Seraphine or if you're getting off of Sputtering Songspinner. Ooh, and we have draw for Amphi.
Ooh. Playing Samira to cycle the spell, we do get that Plastic Guardian down to 1 mana now. But I have Nakakiboros along with wide board pressure that Anfitriao is able to apply. Plus the Spears Unleashed.
Seraphine is currently 5 out of 9. Samira is at 0. Well, E, I should say.
E. Plastic Guardian 1. Croc giving themselves a little bit of space to work with here. Blood for Blood gets another Plastic Guardian on board. So this will pose a problem next turn for Anfitriao, especially because now they're losing the Zap Spray Fin.
Yeah,
they'll be able to block
important.
2 units here.
Now let me double check real quick. I need to see what procs. We're at 3 out of 5 for Sejuani. We don't have enough mana to play the Spirits Unleashed this round, but we can go ahead and get all the units out and about.
I'm surprised that we don't go for a second Zap there. Personally speaking.
I think I would have liked second Zap. That gives you another spell. It's an elusive on board. You want to make sure that you're hitting the Nexus. Because we can technically block down and be perfectly fine. Right? One of our bots will still have 6 HP, 3 HP, even if it's hit with the strongest unit.
That is correct.
I know, okay. I know in Disintegrate, that's going to go ahead and deal with that.
Wow. I mean, this is just what Samira Seraphine does. It's like, hey, let me combine a couple of spells here and poof, make magic. Your champions disappear. There goes Sejuani.
Yeah, there it goes. There it goes. And this is something that I feel like Sejuani, like Plunder itself, has always had an issue with, is control decks, right? If it wasn't the Shadow Isles variant that you have, you know, Vengeance or even Ruination to just completely wipe the board, it's the Noxus variant, where it's like whether it be Swain, Nora, or it be Seraphine, more specifically like Broadmain and Disintegrate list, because now it's basically it's just another Vengeance for like two spells, and at that rate you don't really have a real way to draw your champions aside from one of the what's the follow? Babbling Bjerg would be able to draw it, and if you're the kind of player that runs Feel the Rush, I run Feel the Rush as a 1-up just because I think it's spicy, you know, but it's tough once you start really losing them. Yep, there we go. We're gonna go ahead and get the surrender in. The combo for Seraphine has gotten through. Now, I want to take a look at their decks real quick, right? Croc AI ended up bringing Karma Set, the Shadow Isles variant, Samira Seraphine, and Rise.
Sure.
I'm curious to see what the ban was. I wouldn't be surprised if it was Rise. I feel like overall, that's a hard matchup if you're running, you know, what Anfi's running, because Anfi's running Plunder, Samira Seraphine, and Pirate Aggro, Misfortune TF. So I feel like if anything, I'd be inclined to believe that Croc ended up banning the Samira Seraphine and let the Pirate Aggro go through instead.
Yeah, I think that when Croc AI is running that heavy of a control list, I think Rise doesn't do quite as well. I want to say that tentatively. I don't think it does quite as well into Pirate Aggro. Just kind of knowing how those sort of Noxus board swarm strategies go for Rise, typically speaking. So I wouldn't be surprised if we ban the Samira Seraphine expecting a Rise ban, because looking back again at Anfitriao's list, sure, Misfortune Twisted Fate beats Rise, but Gangplank Sejuani loses to it hard. Samira Seraphine beats Rise, but you don't want to have that be that really hefty 50-50 either way, because we can see Croc AI now, after winning the last match on the Samira Seraphine, does have the Karma set with Shadow Isles variant, which is good into aggro. It does fine into Plunder because you're able to remove things quickly, and you're able to just hold down the board until turn 10 thanks to that Shadow Isles proc on top of it.
Yeah. Now I have a question. Is it ever worth to save your mana to get the earliest spell Spirit Unleashed as possible, or is it better to get the Plunder procs? Because I'm gonna be honest, when Anfi passed, when they had the option Supreme rewarding without really any being able to be contested by any of like the bigger spells like Withering Whale, I was surprised to see them not do it. Although I understand that you want to proc the Spirits Unleashed because now these units are bigger and they're much harder to room. Speaking of a unit, that actually is a great hit.
Oh,
right,
wow,
Ebix?
yeah.
Okay, when I'm supported, so if we end up getting a support somehow, it'll work out. We'll just need another Barai. But I don't know, I have mixed feelings about missing Plunder proc. I feel like when any time I've played it, I've always tried to get it every single round. But we'll see whether or not that bites us. Right now, this is a board, and we do not have the capabilities of removing it aside from with this step, because Quietus is suddenly out of range, right? Ooh, and that Maker Rain is disgusting.
The coins to recall for the Noblefy.
Ooh, need that.
Denies Plunder proc. I wonder if Anfitriao is reading into this matchup and knows that if they play
Another
for
one.
3D early games into Plunder procs, that it'll be much more detrimental for Croc AI. Croc AI just rips the deny.
You have to. You have to. That would have been
Absolutely.
a vicious Spirits Unleashed.
But then you still get the wide board that you have to deal with. Sure, you spend that 4 mana trying to deny Spirits Unleashed, but you also take 9 damage in return. Granted, we do have the Piercing Darkness in hand, so that'll heal us up by 5. A lot of the damage being negated overall. But for Plunder, it doesn't really matter quite as much, because you're just trying to do instances of damage in order to eventually level up your champions. And Gangplank's is 6-5, by the way, thanks to
only 2 out of 5 right now, though.
Ah, yeah, pretty low, hey?
That hurts. That hurts.
He'll die, sir.
Go get the warning shot in. So that means we need to wait till what? Because we're 3 out of 5 now. We need to wait 2 more rounds before we can actually level up our champion. We only have 1 Gangplank in hand. We see Croc's AIs, right? We have Quietus. Quietus at this rate is a dead card. We're not going to be able to use that at all. We're going to have to play our units and possibly even put down a Karma to be able to block maybe the 2-3.
Depends on what Anfitriao has in the deck. They could be running Combat Cook.
True, true.
Survey says no, actually. Their most expensive unit, aside from their champions, is Zap Sprayfin at a 2. Everything else is 2 mana or
Ooh,
less.
Father Fury. Okay.
Yeah, that's some spice, but it's a darn good card.
Oh man. That's a lot of damage.
You know what's crazy too is that Croc AI is down to 5 HP. We healed 5 HP with Piercing Darkness a turn ago. This would have been
Lethal.
That swing
Actually would have been lethal if we didn't
unless we block
his
the set.
Not the quietest.
Oh, the quietest.
Okay, we're gonna use the quietest on the keg. Gotta use it on something.
I used the quietest to destroy the quietest.
Oh man. What does Karma give us? Dragon's Rage.
Dragon's Rage.
Wait, that's actually kind of spicy.
It's not doing a whole lot right now.
Ooh, Sejuani. Set level up. We're not at round 10 yet. I'm not sure if we're gonna be able to get the obliteration here just yet. A Vengeance is a good top deck though.
Welcome to the arena.
Vengeance is great. Pulling in this Gangplank is also amazing because you get the second one off the board now. I don't have that kind of late game overhead finisher available. You do have the Sejuani, which will be played.
Oh, but this is tough though. Like we're already at round 10.
That we are. Right around 10, we're running into double Conk Palm. We have so much draw. We have Facebreaker. We have Vengeance. We have all of the answers that Croc AI needs to stave off Anfitriao at the last stages of this game here. So, oh, but the quietest.
The quietest. There goes Set. We have another one in hand though.
Yeah, then we do. Not enough mana to play Set into Vengeance though.
Yeah, we'd have to make a choice. Oh wow! I made a second Vengeance. Hey yo. Hold up, Karma.
Was really making sure.
Like, listen, you want to kill something? I got you, fam. Okay, Ruthless Raider. All right, we swing. Now we got to deal with all of this right now. Yep. There goes the Vengeance.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I think at this rate, Karma's simply just gonna completely take over.
Yeah. Anfitriao knows that they have nothing here.
Because at that rate, there is no top deck. Even, I feel like maybe the only thing would be like if Anfitriao decided to run Field of Rush, then maybe that could be the top end where it's like, okay, I got 2 10s, but in this case, we're not. But that's exactly what I was talking about earlier. When Plunder is fighting against a control deck, it's kind of difficult, right? If you're not really going for that, that all in with the Spirits Unleashed and your early game units, you can fall victim to just the control early on, especially if they're able to get blockers down. And we saw Anfi do that, right? Cutting down both Spirits Unleashed. One got denied. Making sure to have all the units, even delaying the Plunder procs, just to be able to be like, okay, I'm going to delay these just so I make sure I'm getting these buff units out. Because we already know that for Karma Shadow Isles, their removal tends to be more pings, or like, hey, I'm killing something that's a little bit small, and then they're more top end. It's like, hey, I have the whole Vengeance. Okay, kill one big unit, done. But when you're not able to have, like, when you're not playing like something like Field of Rush or like a Shadow Isles failure control, you suddenly don't have access to things like Ravine or Avalanche or the Trundle spell that I forget the name of.
Icequake, I believe.
Icequake, or even Icequake, right? Which can deal 3 to something, right? And then it's like, okay, Spence Release isn't too bad. But regardless of that fact, held it down on 5 HP, and we saw, like you just said, the drain. We had to drain earlier with that gameplay. If we weren't, we were going to be in lethal range. Ended up stabilizing what Karma said, and we see how powerful it is, right? In Standard, we have the Piltover version. In Eternal, we have the Shadow Isles version, and it's a strong deck. Strong.
The Shadow Isles version is especially made a lot more stronger because of the reintroduction of Vile Feast. Vile Feast is just a darn good card, no matter what Shadow Isles deck you put it in. I remember that was very much a thing before rotation came through, where it was like, yeah, if they're playing Shadow Isles, they're running Vile Feast. I think I remember looking at some stats. I wanted to see like how much inclusion it had, and it had some 60-something% inclusion rate. It was the highest played card in the entire game overall. So definitely a problematic card, I will say.
Listen,
because of like, you're like, oh right, now they get a blocker, they get a drain 1, they get a ping my unit.
My heart
which
broke.
can set up for so many other things, and that is where this Shadow Isles variant comes in. It may seem weird to say like, oh yeah, this little dinky 2-mana spell changes everything, but it really does. It really, really does. Especially when a lot of units will gradually be taking damage through combat, be taking damage through spells. They'll be maybe they'll even be X ones to begin with, And so that means that they're still vulnerable to that ability to be drained and to then have another blocker put on top of them. It is a card that rewards both proactive and reactive play. And that is why, or one of the reasons why this deck has been so prevalent and so strong in Eternal format.
It's great. I mean, like, we see the power of like everything that's internal. We see all the classes come back, whether it be, File Feast. What would actually be some other classic cards that you would say that, like, once we got into Eternal, everyone just immediately put it into their decks?
I would say Spirits Unleashed is another one that we just saw. Was another card that was rotated that got put back in, and that was because it started going off into other regions as well. We saw it in Plunder, but it wasn't obviously intended for Plunder. It was intended for Udyr. I even played it in a Braum Kale deck.
Okay, yes, I've seen
everything.
I remember seeing that deck.
It was a thing, and the fact that this card was such a key piece in between Plunder and Bard Kale, seeing it come back now in Plunder has been monumental. Decimate as well, coming back for a lot of aggro lists. They're like, oh, now I have my 4 damage overhead, the kind of just click win button, more or less. So now, that's another one.
Now, let me ask you a question. Deck stats are available for anyone who's in chat. You can go ahead and type in !decks and you'll be able to pull up the deck list. What do you think are some of the strongest decks that players have brought that isn't Samira Seraphine? Because we already understand that deck's broken. It's broken. But let's take a look, because I was really interested to see that everyone kind of gravitated towards the Samira Seraphine, which I feel like in the Eternals format tournament scene, that is the must-bring deck at all times. I think so much so even more than Rise, right? And we've seen how Rise has done well even in the recent opens. So from what I'm seeing, right, we have a pretty even split across everything with a lot of one-ofs, right? We had Jax Ornn, we had Pirate Aggro, and Rise. Yeah. Out of those decks, I feel like it's really interesting to see that everyone has kind of like brought their own flavors of things, right? Because if we're looking at like the spikes, we have an Aurelian, we have Dragons available. We have Hecarim. We have Braum Tom Kench. Like, we're bringing some spice.
That it is. There's even Echo Jinx up there, who Anesthetized, even though they got knocked out round 1, was bringing that into this. So I think there's a lot of room for flexibility here in terms of what you can bring. There's also Angelo, who is bringing a lineup that, as I see it, is looking to counter Samira Seraphine, at least Teemo being one of those best counters to it overall, just stats-wise. Misfortune Poppy, Aatrox Quinn Vayne. These are still lists that you can say, oh yeah, these are really strong individual lists that you can use to just beat your opponent's face in overall. And there's a lot of different ways to go about it. Even Trustiano isn't bringing Samira Seraphine.
True.
They have Jax Ornn, J4 Vayne, and Teemo Zoe, which is a very, very interesting lineup. But this is also another deck that is trying to apply so much pressure.
Let me ask you a question. What are your thoughts on Teemo Zoe? Because we've seen some different variants of elusives. No one likes elusives. We're like, elusive, I can't block this. First off, get out of here, ban this deck. But anyway, we've seen different variations of this. Like, I believe that the one that was brought into the open, which I believe, I don't remember the player's name. Do you recall? I'm about to go Google it. I'm not gonna lie.
I don't remember it.
We're gonna have to look at it later. But it was the Piltover version, right? We have Teemo Zoe, and you end up basically the whole idea of the deck is that you're playing these elusives out, and then you're buffing them to infinity. You don't have that's all you have are these elusives and these buffs.
Yep.
I know for me when the deck first initially rose, during the Cultist expansion, it was really dominating, and as a control player, I was having issues dealing with that. I play Anivia, they just buff things. I was like, I guess I die. I'm used to things that have pigs. Suddenly these things have like 4 freaking HP. What the hell am I supposed to do?
I have to throw a vengeance at this 3-mana Sparklefly that is now an 8/9. Like that, you don't want to do that. Exactly. You get values out of Ruination and all, but if you're not already losing by turn 6 anyway against that list. Teemo Zoe this time bringing about the Piltover variation, just because Piltover is de facto the best region, I think, in the game right now. And that's also because you have 2 Get Excited, 3 Mystic Shot, Acorn, and Augmented Clockling. Like, these cards are just insane overall. Good burn, elusive units, that's really all you need to know. And I think it just is able to, again, apply a lot of pressure through just having overwhelming stats. Maybe it loses to Ionia recalls, but remember, Ionia lost Homecoming to rotations, so... Well, I guess if it's Eternal, it doesn't matter too much. But again, if you're playing in Eternal, I don't think we see Ionia very much outside of Karma's set. And even then, outside of Tag Out and maybe Unworthy Soul, you don't really see recalls being played in that deck. So that is where it falls apart. Anyway, Pedro against Whiteroom. We're seeing Poppy Misfortune with Scouts up against, hey, guess what? The deck.
The deck. Now, in terms of what Pedro brought, Pedro ended up bringing Samira Seraphine, Jax Orin, Jace Lux, which we saw have success when I believe Puffball Panda played it during one of the opens. And then in my white room is bringing Elise Teemo, Misfortune Poppy that we see on screen, and then Aatrox Quinn Vayne. So these decks definitely are looking to, as you said earlier, either A, burn you the heck out, or just attack. I am trying to just put so much pressure that you can't really deal with what I'm doing. Now, I think in terms of in White Room's hand, we do have a bit of a slow start. This is an expensive hand. I'm gonna go ahead with the Scouts out. I wouldn't be surprised if we ended up passing and like waited for Misfortune or even Poppy to come down. And I think it's good that we're doing the pirouette here. We kill a unit, we stun another. Don't really have to deal with anything else. Sure that we can drag the Seraphine, but at that point, I'm not quite sure if it's 100% worth it. Because double champions, it kind of hurts. Like 2 Poppy, 2 Misfortune. But I know if we're able to get all of these units on board, we're going to be in a really, really good position. Especially with a rally available to us.
Rally Poppy is
just an impression.
Definitely a line, but there is so much removal in Pedro's hand. It just all matters on how you want to set it up. You can do the Blade's Edge into the flock, you can do the Mystic Shot into the flock. Sure, that takes you 2 actions to do, but by the time that the Poppy is able to possibly swing in for an attack, because you have to play the Poppy and then the Rally. If the response is Poppy, Blade's Edge, Rally, immediate flock, then this attack doesn't do anything. And so White Room has to play this respecting that possibility of removal. Pedro also now pulling out the Petricite Broadwing out of the way, so now that Challenger unit is no longer available.
I like it.
Pull things out of the way and saves you resources.
Yeah, and I think at this point, like, saving resources is the go-to. Whoa, that's a top deck.
Wow.
That is a problem of a top deck. If anything, this is the counter card. Now we have to spend so much mana to have to deal with everything. I mean, at that rate, I wouldn't be surprised. Like, do we Mystic Shot Ravenous Flock it? Is that even worth it? And now Misfortune's on field? And we have access to... Do we have access to a Rally? No, we don't. 1 mana short because of Stony Suppressor.
You know, the funny thing is that I'm looking at all of these cards in Pedro's hand, and I'm thinking, yeah, that's actually reasonable cost for all the spells.
Not even. So expensive. Ooh, okay. I like the Shield Vault here. You're going to go ahead and buff Samira, making her a 3/3, meaning that later on the next turn, you're going to be able to drag something and kill it, which most likely would be the Stony Suppressor. In this case, we still do want to get a swing in. I don't believe we're going to trade Samira off. Oh, we are. Okay, go ahead and get the Misfortune out. That's really interesting. I wouldn't have been surprised if we kept it back, but I understand that, like, I believe we talked about this even last week when we spoke about Scouts, how Scouts has like a 10 or 20% higher win rate when Misfortune is actually found and on field.
Yeah, there was some statistic. I can't remember if it was Scouts or if it was Pirates, but it was definitely a Misfortune deck nonetheless. And now with Poppy out on board, Pedro, because of the darn Stony Suppressor on board, Pedro does not have the mana with which to deal with all of the champions on White Room's board. White Room can actually just go ahead for this really massive swing. Of course, this is setting up for the flock next turn, but it costs 2 mana now, thanks to that Stony Suppressor.
Oh, so, we can't even Ravenous Flock right now. So we're gonna get the buff anyway. Do we scout here or do we full swing?
I think we full swing.
I like
because
it.
this is putting on the most pressure that you can possibly get for Pedro.
Mm-hmm.
This forces a block somewhere. You're going down to 4 HP against a region that can rally with no denies available. I need to see Seraphine's hand for a second before I make my next statement. They have Legionary Charge, so they can draw into 2 Plaza Guardians now and get units on board. And we know that we have the flock available to kill the Poppy after a rally does go through. However, you're still having to deal with the full might of a Demacian board here.
Now, is it too bad? Like, is it the horrible line to end up doing the Poppy spell? We're not going to do it for obvious reasons. It's probably always better to do the rally, but that would have been so funny if we ended up just setting one of them back.
Right. Nah, put that back where you found it.
Yeah, here comes the Ravenous. Here's the thing. I think this is really good, right? You have the Ravenous, and then you're gonna have the Pirouette follow-up.
Ah. Yeah. Ravenous into... Oh, but they don't Pirouette. Oh, no, because they can't when there's another slow spell on stack. Right, because it's not Pedro's turn. They'll have to do it next. Okay, I got it. I got you. Now, Pedro has 1 action. Probably going to be stunning the Genevieve, would be my guess.
Yeah, you don't want to murder die. Yeah, there we go. Have to get it out the way.
But man, that damage.
Oh, but we still got our scout attack.
Didn't use it earlier. This does mean that White Room will have to trade both of their high value units here off of the board, going in with the Stony Suppressor anyway.
Stony? Oh, keeping it back. Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I say we keep it back.
Give a positive trade. Of course, like Pedro's on no mana. But...
Oh no, Kai.
Huh?
We can't copy the bot. I've done this interaction in game because I was always curious. Like, if you kill it, does it get it? Because it has to deal 1 first. It dies first, and it doesn't actually get the copy through. So we have no way of getting another robot unless we're able to find iterative improvement right now.
I believe we find Song Spinner, so it might not be all over. Pedro's list. We gotta find the person's specific list because everyone's gonna tweak this slightly differently. Yeah, running 1 iterative improvement.
Yeah,
here.
we would have to find
Blood for Blood. And Blood for Blood's text does read, if it survives the deal 1 to an allied follower, then you create a copy in hand. And here's another misfortune, by the way. In case you weren't tired of seeing this unit, hey Pedro, here's another one.
Oh, we have enough.
Good luck.
Poppy too. We have the second Poppy. Do we even go with the Demacian spell? I feel like the answer is no. I feel like we end up going with an open swing rather than for Demacia.
You go for an open swing with Genevieve. Because you have Misfortune on board, you can take that attack and remove the Plaza Guardian first before getting in with your next attack, because then that forces more answers out.
Yes. And then not only that, we simply kill off a Misfortune alone. Get Scout. Yep, there it goes. Pedro sees it. It's just the Misfortune bullets going in with that Scout unit. Wow.
And that is a very good representation of what Demacia likes to do. It likes to apply that kind of pressure. It likes to be able to eat these decks that want to have a combo or a control piece that they like to set up, and then it just completely ruins their day and runs over them. And I think that as much as I like to rag on Demacia for not being all that interesting of a region, I think it has proven itself to be highly necessary in these situations where you're trying to keep these decks down. Samira Seraphine, it was fighting for its life there and losing. It was like punching water. It was trying to fight a river, man. That thing will sweep you away and you're just doing no damage to it whatsoever.
Listen, like that Stony Suppressor was so huge. Like it really, like that was actually the core reason why we weren't able to kill the Poppy and then all the units ended up getting buffed and we just ended up taking all that damage in the first place. Now we're gonna go ahead and see Pedro run it back on Samira Seraphine versus InMyWhiteRoom's Burn deck. This is an Elise Chemo. Now,
oh boy,
I believe this is like the classic Burn. Yeah, we got Blowback, Get Excited, Onto Dust, Unspeakable Horror, Mystic Shot. Not all. Use Cast Salesman, Doom Beast, Boom Crew, Ballistic. Like when I tell you this has burn, this has almost all the burn that we can possibly have from these two regions.
Am I allowed to make a reference to like the Chicago Fire or whatever, because that's how much burn there is in this list.
Please, not the Chicago Fire.
Okay, maybe a little too soon. No, I understand. It only happened years ago. Anyway, WhiteRoom's off to a great start with the ballistic bot here, going to be getting some of those pings onto the board. Pedro, interestingly enough, plays the Scrap Dash Assembly, and I think that is honestly just to pass a turn. I think that is a card that is wanting to try and see what WhiteRoom has in response here, and that's where this pirouette gets its maximum efficiency out. You remove that fearsome unit, so you don't have to worry about blocking it anymore. You get the stun on the ballistic bot, so if you ever were thinking about swinging with that, it doesn't also go through. Overall, pretty good. Pretty good result for Pedro there.
Yeah, this is a great hand for Pedro too, right? We have access to Seraphine, Sputtering. We have our robot already. A Disintegrate if we really need to deal with something. Samira is now on field. Now, mind you, Samira won't be able to drag anything because we don't have any other pings to get this ballistic bot lower.
And that's why WhiteRoom plays the Boom Crew rookie, recognizing the fact that Samira is not going to be able to drag anything. However, they did play the Doom Beast. They would have had that free attack. So it will have to be the Samira plus one other committed piece of utility here.
Oh, that was interesting because if we just dragged and let it through, it would have been fine. But if we committed the Disintegrate, then we would have lost out on that Disintegrate right then and there. So I like the fact that we didn't immediately go for the Disintegrate, and we're probably just a Boom Crew rookie for a potential ping that we could top deck.
I think more than anything, Pedro wanted to cycle it for more spells. We were just trying to get the strike off on the safest unit we could get. Because you want to get more spells. What does Samira do when she strikes? She gets you another spell. So then you get that Plastic Guardian faster. That is ultimately what Pedro's goal was. But of course, it's cut short by a Mystic Shot going.
Ooh, Guiding Touch is huge.
Guiding Touch is massive. Gruesome Theater is a very funny card. Sleepy Trouble Bubble does help with a bit of a control plan, but it won't help with too much this turn. Yeah, Guiding Touch is great. Advanced Intel also to look for things, ping your opponent's units if possible. I'll also go into that high note later on, and a Time Trick is found. So, you know, Samira Seraphine playing Solitaire as they always do.
Now, I like the fact that we held back the Gruesome Theater because now you can use it on the Fearsome unit because the Scrap Scuttlers can go ahead and block everything else. So
it's Gruesome Theater's health, right? I always get... Quicken is the one that I get it mixed up with all the time. Quicken. That's the one I'm thinking of.
Interesting. So we're okay taking the 4 damage from the Fearsome, but we don't want to take it from the 2 damage from the Boom Crew. I'm not sure if that's gonna bite Pedro later on. That is just 4 damage we can't block at all.
Did Pedro also make the same mistake that I did? Where they misread the card? Because yeah, you would obviously want to have the Gruesome Theater recalling the Stygian Onlooker there. I'm very curious as to where. I'm gonna
have to go back and look at that card real quick and make sure that I'm reading it right.
Quicken's power. Quicken is power. Gruesome Theater is health.
It is health, right? I'm not bugging.
Yeah.
I'm not double check.
But it's possible that Pedro got those mixed up or wasn't really worried about, okay, I take 4 damage from a 4-1, whoop-de-doo. What are you going to do now? I think that it's trying to guarantee less damage to face in the long run, because when you swing in with, sure, you recall the 1 mana unit, but you're not recalling like a guarantee of that damage going through, because if you find Blade's Edge, for example, and you're able to remove the Stygian Onlooker, then the problem still remains to be the Boom Crew rookie, which is guaranteed to hit you for 2 damage. And that's guaranteed to continue to hit you for 2 damage. Whereas if you are able to stymie that and not take the damage from the Boom Crew rookie, then that's a little bit of a better outcome. And as it stands, Pedro does have a leveled Seraphine and a Plaza Guardian on board now. So pretty decent outcome overall. However, this Doom Beast gets onto Dusk, gets another Doom Beast on board. Pedro's down to 9 HP and not a whole lot else to show for it.
Oh man, oh man. 11 HP. That's 2 more damage of burn. That's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we have 7 damage of burn right now.
Good lord.
At least, not really what we're looking for. We need some more burn.
I mean, the
No, I
Guardian is
miscounted.
as big as it is. That's
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's 9. I had missed the boom groom.
Yeah. Hence the reason for the recall. If we didn't recall it there, we're taking 2 damage then, 2 damage now. Same amount of health either way. That's so strange.
I think maybe because you know the fearsome unit only lasts 1 round, you don't have to deal with it later, while the boom crew rookie you will have to deal with. Like each turn. And you can't deal with them both in conjunction. Oh, onto dusk. More draw. Find Samira.
Wow.
This is tricky.
Find Samira in a formula, no less.
And it's good. I was interested to see why we didn't full swing. I know, like, I understand 100% why, but it was nice to see that InMyWhiteRoom decided not to, because even though you were swinging wider than your opponent and you can get a little bit of like extra ticks of damage, it's perfectly okay, right? We can go ahead and just swing in for a little bit for that guaranteed 2 damage from Boom Crew, and then we'll just use the rest of the burn. Because right now we're on 5, and we do have 5 points of burn in hand. Speaking of burn, we now have blowback.
I think you honestly go for blowback here, because in case Samira can rally at burst speed, which she can, you want to get the blowback to get that guaranteed damage to face with the with the discard off of the 2. Well, okay, the ignition and 1 of the card, but that deals 3 damage to face, and then use Get Excited on face to kill Smear Seraphine. So this is the reason why the Teemo Elise Shadow Isles deck is the most direct counter, I guess, the most obvious counter for Samira Seraphine, because it's like, okay, cool, you have a bunch of units on board. I'm gonna ignore that. I'm gonna go directly for your face and kill you. And that is what happened here. Advanced Intel is burned, but it's not gonna matter. There's no Sputtering Song Spinner. You can't find Guiding Touch a second time, by the way, because the Guiding Touch or Sputtering says new spell, so if you've played it already.
Really? Okay. It had never registered for me. I always thought, oh, it just makes any spells. I didn't realize it was only new spells, but that makes sense.
Only new spells.
Like, we saw it. The burn and the Demacia deck ended up going straight through, right? And not that just completely ran through Seraphine before we can actually reach that point where we're like, hey, I got all my bots out and I'm killing you, right? And we saw the power of Sony Suppressor. That really helped out and was, I think, pivotal to winning the initial Poppy Misfortune matchup with the Seraphine. And then the second one was just burn, right? Samira Seraphine is playing what regions? Noxus Piltover. What do they not have? Healing. Where can they only get it from? Sputtering. And it's 1 spell, and we ended up getting it already. So did we save ourselves the 2 HP? Yeah. Did it really matter then? Unfortunately not, because that specific variant of Elise team was just running so much burn. It's just, that's all the deck is. Like, you're running so much that you're like, yeah, I'm going to run Use Cast Salesman, which also damage to me, and I'm not going to care. Like, I'm just going to do it.
Yeah, it's like, I'm already running faster than you. If I'm doing 2 damage to myself, it's also 2 damage to you, where I've already burned you down to this point where you're kind of out of my reach or out of your own level, like safety net, really. That's, yeah, you can't really do too much about it at a certain point. Where was I going with this? I was thinking about the...
What deck were you thinking?
Oh, right. I was thinking about the... Did we see the new card yet? Hold on. I saw a lot of leaks because of the Runeterra team that I'm in. And I'm not sure if we've seen that new Demacia unit that also changes spell mana. Okay.
I don't think so. Not yet. Not yet.
Okay, so I won't say anything.
No spoilers. No spoilers. Not yet.
No spoilers.
If you're into spoilers, chat, go ahead and go. I think the spoilers are available on Reddit. You can view all the cards. If you haven't already, check out the new champion. Nico has been revealed. Go ahead and check out that champion trailer. I'm really excited for the new champions. Niddy was my first champion ever in League. So to see her now brought into really same. Listen,
yeah,
I love my change with the girl.
No, I played mid lane Nidalee back in like season 3 or something. And this was also before she had Cougar form at level 1. You would get it at level 6. And so she was considered a meme pick in the jungle. And so you would just have her as like this long range spear hucking mage in the mid lane. It was great.
It was so great. I missed it.
Days gone by.
Let's go ahead. Let's take a look real quick at the decks for our next opponents. We're going to go ahead and have Kaedoo and Danwind. Both these players have been really strong, and they've been really showing up in these Eternal tournaments. Danwind, I believe, reaching top 4 a couple of times.
Yeah, Danwind's been a very consistent contender. Kaedoo have also recognized Kaedoo. Whatever you want to pronounce that.
What we're looking at? What we're cooking? Oh, Karma said Freljord?
Could be Trundle set.
Could be Trundle set. No, I see a Karma right there. That's Shadow Wild's Karma. Hold up.
No. Kaedoo is. Oh yeah, Kaedoo is on Karma set.
Am I
wow. No, you're not.
No, I think I am being a.
No, that is a Karma. Sorry, I was looking over at the OBS Ninja side of things where we don't have the second hand on that. Yeah, it's the spectator side.
Let me fix that real quick. But anywho.
But no, Kaedoo is running Karma set as well, but as a Freljord variant, which is interesting to say the least. The reason why you're running Freljord is because you have access to ramp. You're running 4 copies of Winter's Touch. You're running 1 copy of Wild Mysticism. You're running 3x Kylie Tavern Keeper and the Kylie Tavern Keeper's best friend, 3x Smooth Mixologist.
Smooth Mixologist?
Oh, and also 3x Blighted Ravine. So in case you didn't have enough healing, hey, we put more healing into your healing. Along with 2 copies of Health Potion. The list goes on, right?
This is
and eventually topping out with a Feel the Rush. So there are some really great high impact cards that Karma set wants to hit in this Freljord variant that is then aided by being able to ramp up quickly. In fact, we can even see Kaedoo is at 10 mana. Danwind, by comparison, is at 8. Oh, that is all thanks to that ramp. However, Kaedoo without a Karma in hand right now, and that is going to be very detrimental. We'll have to use a Winter's Touch to draw cards now. Because you want to get your champion on the board before Danwind's Karma.
Vengeance being ripped. No deny backup up. Kaedoo's gonna go ahead and rip this deny we get to keep set. But like you said, like, what are your thoughts on this specific matchup? Like, I feel like we need Karma at this rate. Like, sure, we can ramp all we want, but if we aren't able to get the Karma earlier than our opponent, at that rate, it just becomes another waiting game until their Karma turns on. Winter's Touch is good. It's going to be that 1 mana draw. Very great card for Freljord. All these ramp decks at that point of the game, once you get late game, it's like, oh, I don't really have a way to draw. And they ended up making that available.
Me personally, I think Danwind has a better chance of winning this. And it's partially in the Shadow Isles part of it, right?
Yeah.
If there's anything that I've learned about control decks, it's that they like to have some very specific units on board at all times. And if there's anything that disrupts them being able to keep those specific units on board, let's talk darkness, right? If there's anything that disrupts them being able to keep a Vhagar on board, it slows them down significantly, and this becomes such a problem. This is also why Quietus before its nerf was a massive issue, and why Vhagar wasn't really seen for very long. Is because Shadow Isles was just really good at removing things off of the board and giving your own control deck that kind of pressure against other control decks. Plus the fact that you're able to run deny, plus the fact that you're able to run these tag outs to recall the Karma where you need to. Sure, Kaedoo might be able to get to mana 10 before Danwind does, but if you don't find the Karma early on, you're not doing anything with that.
Oh, we're burning cards.
We are burning cards, though.
Gotta be careful. Now, I'm looking at Dan's hand right now, right? We have a lot of denial, 2 Notifies, a deny, a little bit of a draw. We don't have any removal aside from the 1 recall and the box. The box not really being able to be played unless your opponent is playing something. We find our Karma! Oh, this is about to get nutty. This is about to just become a whole bunch of spell slinging. Do we have coins? I didn't even get to see. If we have coins, we might be able to reset our turn.
In the set level at the same time. If we do have coins available for Karma.
We have 1. You have 1 coin.
We have 1, but no, we have 2 actually. I see no. Yeah, I see you refill 2 mana on that. So that's 4 mana back for Karma that can play into... I don't know. This hand from Kaedoo is also very reactive. You could try to play the coins to get the obliterate for set, but then there's the deny from Danwind. So, or the notify even to handle it.
We're doing it. We're gonna do it. We're gonna go ahead and use tag out. That doubles up. That gets us more coins. We have just enough mana to play the coin and then play set, and then thus go ahead and obliterate the karma. However, Danwind has access to 2 notifies, and the obliteration is 0 mana, so we are gonna be able to deny that.
That's so funny. That
Actually,
interaction of...
We can only deny 1. I'm bugging karma, because he ramped.
Oh, that's right.
So it's gonna be 2 obliterations. I think we either lose karma or set immediately.
We lose both, actually. Because
you're right.
Because the AoE damage will kill the set.
To me, line starts here.
So the whole turn refill, slam the set, slam the karma. So what I was saying earlier about Kaedoo not winning, that was based off of the fact that they got to mana 10 and didn't have karma, but as soon as they found karma, it was a whole different can of worms. Yeah, now it's not looking nearly as good for Danwind. I think that you still do have that pressure in the form of vengeance and the stuns and the recalls and all that sort of thing. But without the champions on board for Danwind now, thanks to that obliteration and everything, the pressure that you're to apply with karma, I mean, sure, it's kind of there. You can double up on a concussive palm to make sure that the set doesn't go through.
Like, I feel like we're basically not worried about board, because we know that if karma burst summons anything, we can just play the box.
What's really funny
worried about is that set obliteration.
Do you know what that 5-mana card does?
Yes, actually. It is called Liminal Guardian, I think.
Correct.
And it summons a little 3/2 Guardian cat thing, who looks like he should be much beefier in stats. And
oh, totally. Yep.
So we're gonna get a nice little board refill.
You get a little board refill. I think the spell specifically is called 9 Lives, and the card is called Liminal Guardian. And then you can recall Liminal Guardian, and it will turn back into 9 Lives. It is one of those funny little cards. It's like the Shimon Wind card.
Yes.
But way worse.
It's just worse.
Absolutely terrible in every way. That's a board, right?
That is a board.
I'm surprised that you remembered it was a 3/2. I had no idea what the stats were.
Let me tell you something. I've gotten this card a lot.
Oh,
when I play karma. She just always give it to me. I'm like, damn, why do I have this freaking card? Why do you have to give me this? Running an avalanche. But here's the deal, right? Although, yes, we can go ahead and wipe this board, that's not really the issue that we're worried about here. We have to deal with, right here, this obliteration. And we have a choice. We either A, can go ahead and stun maybe the set so we can get some blockers out, or we just wipe the field. I think wiping the field will keep us alive because we'll only take 10 damage. Well, 12 damage in total for counting the obliterations, but at that rate, it's just like, the set is really just becoming this engine with karma in terms of being able to remove everything. Oh, we reset our turn. Hold up. Oh, we going in. Hold up. Cooking set.
I'm surprised we don't use Unworthy Soul. Right? You can recall your own units with that?
You technically could. You could. But I think we want to maybe save it in case like our opponent plays something else. We don't know if they have maybe any other units. And we can't, unfortunately, we're locked out of playing the set. I mean, we'll play it anyway. I think we get the obliteration, though. I believe we do. He doesn't have to be in hand or on board. It just has to happen, period, within the round.
Yep.
This is interesting because we know that in Freljord we do have access to buffs. So this set is going to be able to swing in if we decide to use the 3 sisters to kill set.
We even have tag out for Kaedoo. So it,
We have tag out.
Yeah, I'm just thinking you might have to... Whoa. Okay. Just going direct first. Forcing the answer first from Kaedoo.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what you can do is tag out, call the karma. Then you can replay karma coin and then use the 3 sisters into Entomb to protect whatever unit gets target by the obliterate.
You realize who you're up against?
Hmm.
So it's all very
Alright.
doable.
So you call it now.
Right.
It goes a
Or
stun.
the stun.
Don't mind stun. So we don't have
Okay.
Karma on field, so we don't have to really worry about the double up from the obliteration. We're okay with that. Now the tag out. Mm-hmm.
And the return fire.
Crazy enough, if we had the mana, we actually could have stopped that. Because we have 2 Dopifies.
Oh, that we do. That we indeed do. But I think Danwind has to play to make something happen here. And Kaedoo just has too good of a reactive hand for anything to go awry at this point.
Healing the unit, okay.
Just getting that board width down.
The box. Because this variant that Danwind is running, right? It is very good at handling aggro, right? We have 2 of the box, which is normally a card you don't see more than a 1 of because of how clunky it can be, especially if your opponent is playing around it. We have Withering Wail, Vile Feast, Soul Harvest, and Quietus. These are all cards you want to use on like low power units or low HP units. So getting these cards later in the game when it's kind of like at this stage, it hurts, right? That's not really the cards that we're looking for. We really need our Vengeance, we need our stuns, recalls, things like that.
That we do, and Kaedoo's attack isn't all that intimidating here. Funny enough, the Winter's Breath does kill Danwind's board. We'll have to commit a deny for it.
It does technically. It does.
It does technically. It's also like saying, "Oh, sir, well, it was only a felony. It's only technically a."
Gosh, this deck is a menace.
Yeah.
Freaking Karma.
I know what's happening on board by set, but I know what's happening on board. Okay. Yeah, that's just wow. Recalls their own set. You can replay it this turn. But no more units on board. Plus a coin refill into a face breaker to prevent. Oh no, set's 5 mana. What am I thinking? I always thought set was 4 mana for some reason. That'd be insane.
Yeah, 5 mana.
But I'll have to make Mixologist here because you don't want to be taking the damage that Kaedoo is presenting.
Yeah.
We will not stand by.
But oh wow.
Are we gonna stun? How much mana is this? Oh my god, the turn reset. Oh my gosh. Yeah, there it goes.
You thought this turn was over?
We reset the turn 3 times! Come on, that's crazy.
That we indeed did. We drew all 3 sets. Oh, and also in case you weren't worried about it before, we can actually go up to 6 mana now.
You can play another unit? Oh my god.
And that's exactly lethal right now.
Crazy. Wow. Exactly lethal. That was an insane Karma v Karma game.
That really was. I mean, Kaedoo really showing off that once the ramp deck found the Karma, it was curtains. It was taken off, going off to space.
Yeah.
And never to come back. Because it was just that turn where they drew into it. It's like, oh, okay. They have all the defensive spells now. They can't really keep it up in terms of pacing because of what Kaedoo's been able to set with ramp cards here. And they win the round off of that. So really well played in the Karma mirror overall. But man, cards sure were played.
Whew, they were definitely indeed. I'm gonna go ahead and see Kaedoo on Aphelios. Danwind running back the Karma set. Shadow Isles variant. Interesting hand. Okay. Kindler. I would assume that we're gonna keep Aphelios. I wouldn't be surprised if we send back Telstone to blowback. Okay, I'll pay. Ooh, okay. I like this hand.
Night flowers upon my blade.
Now,
No more hiding.
in terms of, I'm not sure if we're going to be able to use this box to its maximum efficiency, given that I feel like Kaedoo's deck kind of like plays units one by one, and not really swarming the deck like an aggro deck. However, with that being said, there are some key units that we are going to want to kill, right? One being Aphelios, that's already at 3 HP. Another one being Victor, if we want to get Victor down from 4 to 3 so that we can Biofeast it later on or in preparation. Another thing being Submersible. Submersible is a 5 HP unit. If we can go ahead and knock 2 HP off of that, that could be really helpful later on. Don't think we're going to really need that. What's really going to be incredibly important for Danwind, right? This Aphelios Victor deck is a burn deck, right? We're running 2 Blowback, 3 Get Excited, 3 Mystic Shot, Ballistic Bot. I mean, we're trying to most likely go for that after you've burnt them out, go for that kind of that elusive finish with either, hopefully Victor gets the keyword, or even you just get to that point with Submersible. So we have to be really mindful of the damage we're taking. And I wouldn't be surprised if we ended up recalling the bot, or even vengeancing it. That's something, because it catches up to you. Like, those pings every single round. Every round you don't deal with it, it's another damage, another damage, another damage. Opted for the vengeance onto the 3/3 Aphelios.
I could hear the Velcro off of that one, how loudly Danwind just ripped that. Just kill that guy. Do not want that on board. The kind of value engine going into a Victor matchup, this is a very, very ballsy Victor. But I think that since we saw Vengeance #1, we're thinking that, okay, if they have Vengeance #2, their development is severely hampered.
Yes.
Danwind does have the set available, but opts to pass, wants to see what other things Kaedoo wants to throw out here. Would not be surprised to see this set here at the end of the turn. Big swing. Decent one.
Okay, going for the stun. I'm going to go ahead and trade off the unit, get some draw off. We are going to get set down next attack token, so that's going to be really good. We're going to go ahead and drag something. Probably most likely the 5/3. We could, I think, even drag Victor now. Now that we have access to Biofeast.
But here's the thing. Once set comes down, it's very likely that they're going to be throwing the Gravitum card at it.
Yeah, you have to consider that.
So I don't think that that's going to be the line this turn. I mean, yeah, like, sure, set comes down, but there's no denies in Danwind's hand, so this is going to be a nice little stun, keep that Victor alive for a little bit longer. And the great thing about Aphelios Victor, considering the lineup or the setup that Kaedoo has on board right now, is that you're able to, what I like to call soft passing. I know this is like terminology that confuses people whenever I say it out loud. So to clarify what soft passing is, in my mind, is intentionally playing a low mana or low value card to try and pass the opponent back to your turn, to their turn, to see what they have. So Victor creates that token in the form of the Hex Core upgrade. You have the Ballistic Bot, whatever it's ignition. The Ballistic Bot's ignition coming through, and then we have Aphelios coming down now that there's no longer the threat of that Vengeance available either. And so you're able to just continue soft passing with these really low value, like low cost and also low value cards, keep seeing what Danwind has. And because Danwind has tapped out of any realm of threat, in terms of deny, in terms of the box, in terms of a Withering Whale, really all that you're left with now is playing a Vile Feast for another blocker. And even then, Danwind has to pass the turn and then just hope that they have something to answer back with now. But that also leaves him out of the room of the box range. So now Aphelios can't get removed as easily. And the problems are just going to keep piling on the longer this Victor turn stays on board.
Oh man, this is a toughie. This is definitely a tough game. We ended up getting Infernum, so it's going to give us that Overwhelm. Not sure if we're going to put it on the Ballistic Bot or Victor. I'd be inclined to put it on Victor because the Victor has quick attack. We might not even swing with Ballistic Bot. Okay, puts it on Ballistic Bot, so we are going to swing.
Cashing it in. The double tag out in Danwind's hand will make their introduction this round. And I think that the Hex upgrade's already been used by Victor, so
yes,
that means that we're not finding Spell Shield this round for Kaedoo.
Oh, we ended up getting Lifesteal.
Lifesteal's pretty nice, but it's going to get reset here. Danwind does have the double tag out answer.
Yeah.
Plays one.
Gonna go ahead.
Doesn't
and do
play
that.
two.
I don't mind. I don't mind not playing two, right? You can save it for later because Victor doesn't have Overwhelm, so you don't really have to worry about it, and you had a Fearsome blocker. But now we can go ahead and put this Ballistic Bot back, reset those stats. The only thing I am worried about, right, is that next turn, if we decide not to do anything about the Victor just yet, it might get Spell Shield. But again, we do have Vile Feast, so we can just use the Vile Feast to pop it off, which is kind of like the Shadow Owl's classic combo. You like use Vile Feast into one of the big removal spells. So I think it's okay. It's not as bad. But again, I feel like not having dealt with the Ballistic Bot earlier, it's a little rough. We didn't really have any good options to do so though, right? Because the box, you have to play on 4 mana, Ballistic Bot's 2 mana. Withering Rail again is only pings. That's something that this specific variant of Karma set has. It's really more so about killing those aggro decks that are running the low HP units. In this sense, we're already at 13 HP. We do have healing, so mind you, we can survive some of the burn. But if Kaedoo decides to cash in the Targonian Tailstones and possibly invoke into some of the bigger Celestials, this could be a real problem for Danwind.
It sure could be. Great Beyond, for example, will be a card that will take multifaceted answers. Funny enough, Danwind's hand can heal them back up to full. The Smooth Mixologist into the Withering Wail, into the Vile Feast. That is 7 HP combined. 4 left remaining in hand. And even with the Sonite Urchin now on board, this Withering Wail is getting a bit of value in being able to deny that 2 damage if there's ever a swing on the following shirt from Danwind. But Aphelios is going to be the first victim. However, Kaedoo does have the Targonian Tailstones and the Blessing of Targon if they do choose to save it here. So, it's going to be an ultimate question of what do I choose to remove? Vile Feast committed.
Okay.
The attack token and Vile Feast.
Interesting.
That is.
We could buff Victor, like. We could just buff Targonian Tailstones.
I mean, heck, do we just use... Yeah, Targonian Tailstones into Blessing of Targon. I don't think it needs to be more complicated than that.
There he goes. Buff to infinity. This is a big Victor.
And it's only going to become a problem. Well, Tag Out's going to, thankfully, for Danwind, keep it off his back. In case this is a really valuable keyword. Let's find out.
Back to 17. This is... Like, we have a lot of burning through. Like, at this rate, at this stage of the game, when you're able to have Victor on board like this, you really want to, you're really hoping that you're getting the keywords that it's going to give you Overwhelm or even Elusive. Mind you, I think that's where Aphelios comes in, because now from here we are able to pick off Infernum, so we can give Aphelios, either Victor or the Ballistic Bot again Overwhelm. Ballistic Bot a little bit low. So we're going to have definitely probably give it to Victor. The only thing is, when you stack all of your buffs onto one unit, you do have to worry about the fact that, you know, if a Vengeance does come through, there goes everything that you've used, which is why it's really good to try to spread the damage around.
Impact.
Not too bad. Guaranteed damage. I know, I see Danwind hovering over that recall.
Definitely thinking about it. As it stands, Kaedoo doesn't have a keyword that is threatening, like you've said. No Elusive, no Overwhelm. So Danwind can just sit on this tag out forever, more or less. I do like the idea of spreading out the buffs. This Infernum going on to the Ballistic Bot. Could even go on to the Aphelios. Deny is massive too. Would deny a Sunburst.
Okay, that was a little nerve-wracking because we don't have a way to deal with Victor if he gets spell. Oh no, we have another Vile Feast. Disregard my statement. We got a second one.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say okay.
Challenger was the keyword rolled this round.
Okay, Challenger. Now, I think something else to note is that when you're playing against an opponent that has these kinds of buffs, like whether it be a Philios or another card, you want to really let them play it all out, because then at that point you can start using your removal. But like, hey, you used Infernum on this unit, now I can recall it, and you wasted the Infernum.
My strength is yours.
10-4, like a 10-4. That was 2 rounds, Kai. Why is it a 10-4 already? Jeez.
Aphelios weapons got the one off of the Targonian Blessing, Ignition plus Victor buff, and something else in there. I wasn't keeping track of the stats exactly, but now that we've also got this buff from Infernum, the problematic card is becoming this ballistic bot. Like you said, the stats that it's able to stack upon itself thanks to augment and everything do make it a genuine problem. Targonian Telestones as well, committed for even further problems in the form of the Great Beyond
Scourge.
The Scourge is found, but we can't play it just yet. We'll have to play it on our next attack.
We can't.
Wait, we can't because it's created.
It's created.
Oh, wait a minute.
Oh, that's a problem.
Wow.
Oh man, hold up. We can't deal with this at all. I mean, even if we recall it, we still have to, like, we'll live because we have blockers, but then we're gonna end up losing our whole board. Like, we have to send it back. We can't let it stay.
Yeah. Send it back to the manager. Scourge cannot be staying on board.
Ooh,
and I think for a moment there, Danwind might. Oh, what was I thinking of here? Yeah, for a moment there, Danwind might have been safe. But I like the idea. Earlier I was thinking, oh, they're going to use double tag out, but that was definitely a premature idea. Because saving this now for the Scourge is absolutely massive. And healing 3 HP, because you're expecting this overall damage to come through. Hit you for 9 damage, and then you have the Crescendum on top of it to draw another unit. This is absolutely insane how much value Kaedoo is getting now that both these champions have
another ballistic
board. Oh, hey! Yeah, that's great. Danwind also just as surprised as we are. Pulls the Mixologist out of the way. That's your highest health walker. Or the set. Either way. Trying to just go wide on this board with no mana for Danwind. No deny, or well, nothing really valuable to deny overall. And also, you're running the problem of like, hey, I haven't found Karma yet. It's gonna be turn 10. Maybe we top deck it and that'll turn this game around. But man, as it stands, Danwind does not have the late game finisher and the ability to keep this board intact. And Victor, he's only at 4 HP right now. Does continue to pose a threat. So Percival getting burned feels really bad though.
Okay, get a set back. We don't have how much? Shut up. How many coins do we have in hand right now? We have 5. Okay. So we can. Yeah, we're gonna. I was just about to say that we're gonna see Sunburst coin comes out. We deny. So set is a-okay. We are gonna be able to drag that Victor.
But after this deny, what are you? Oh well, you're using the Showstopper to kill Victor.
You could even drag Victor if you wanted to.
Oh, you could.
I feel like
Showstopper to kill Av.
I saw you looking at me.
Yeah, either or, I guess. Don't really matter. Actually, no. Technically, it does matter because Victor being at 25-4, 4 HP, you can buff with Pale Cascade. And if there's multiple Pale Cascades, then you suddenly can't kill Victor. So it is always right to go for the Aphelios and then obliterate the Victor. But this right here is scary because if we get Spell Shield, it's a wrap. We don't have Karma to double it up. No.
You just
I mean, to be fair, there's only so many keywords that you can get after Victor's been on board for so long. Oh man.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Caster's Curse. How can I? Well, it was like a great name for a podcast. It's like, hi, welcome back to Caster's Curse. Today we're going to be talking about how we absolutely screwed over Danwind by giving Victor Spell Shield. That is not an outcome you want to see.
I need to know how much burn have we done with Ignition? I think we've done plenty. What? That's each round. I think we have to have done nearly almost 820 points of burden with freaking ignition. Like that's
We've done
insane.
a lot.
It's a lot. Okay, now Dan already knows what's gonna happen, right? Scourge is gonna come down. We're already at 6. We can't technically just straight up kill with get excited. That is not Soul Harvest is not what we're looking for right now. We're hoping for the vengeance.
Hoping for the vengeance, or yeah, I honestly think that vengeance was the only out. I was gonna say, oh, we can try and find karma, but there's no draw in this hand. Like karma doesn't do anything with this hand right now. Smith Mixologist does heal for a coin, but Danwind knows it's curtains.
Oh man, oh man.
Wow.
This is a beefy Victor. GG. Now Danwind held it. Danwind was holding the line, getting the set leveled up, getting the obliterations, dragging, doing their absolute best, holding down to that removal to like remove whatever was necessary. Like, cause think about it, if we use the tag out to recall Victor earlier, we wouldn't have been able to do it on the Scourge, right? And sometimes that can make a difference. Sometimes if you're just patient with it, right? And I think at that point it was like, there's no overwhelm. I'm A-okay. I got fearsome blockers. I can just keep blocking and blocking and blocking. The moment overwhelm came up, we're like, okay, yeah, that gotta go. You can't keep the overwhelm. That's just... goodbye. Send that to the Shadow Realm. Oh my gosh, what a game. That was very grindy. Both matches, you know, a Karma set versus Karma set, and then the Victor Aphelios into Karma set Shadow Isles variant. Oh my gosh, GG's to both players.
Both decks trying to play for these late game value kind of engines, things that they want to keep on the board for an extended period of time. And when in the first match, Kaedoo didn't have Karma, which was key to winning their matchup specifically because they wanted to ramp it to mana 10 as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
And then when they found Karma on turn 9, which was Danwind's mana 9 versus their mana 10, having that extra turn in advance was exactly what they needed in order to get the victory there. And then in this scenario, we're seeing how, again, Danwind didn't have the Karma. They didn't have that late game availability, whereas Aphelios Victor kept finding their champions and kept being able to stick them, eventually culminating in that finding of the spell shield because Danwind couldn't find the vengeance early on. Had the double recall, but had to use it on other more priority targets that were dealing more damage to their face at the time. And was basically forced to play as slow and reactive as possible. And when you're getting crushed under the level of value that Aphelios Victor is able to then steamroll you with, there's a point where you just have to say, man, I'm beat here. I couldn't find my one win condition here. Unfortunately, Danwind, even though in a very close match, I think that the score is a little bit unfair, being in 0-2 for Danwind. But I think that both of the matches were just a matter of very fine margins. I didn't feel like either game was like heavily in favor of either player. It was just a matter of like one or two cards that were extremely key, like finding the Scourge in the second match.
No, absolutely. 100% agree with you. And like if we're looking at the deck list, right, Danwind ended up banning Samira Seraphine, which I think personally is the correct ban. That deck is it does a lot, right? And I think it's just unfortunate that the specific Shadow Isles variant Karma set deck that we brought was more aggro oriented. It was like, hey, I'm prepping for aggro when it comes to Withering Wail, the box. We saw 2 of the box in the second game that just unfortunately had to sit there because with the Aphelios Victor deck, right, these units are already 3 and up. Everything that's a priority unit, 3 HP or more. It's the Percival, 5 HP, the Scourge, 10 HP, Victor, 4 HP. They're too beefy to be able to handle all that removal, and you have to do some really weird like navigation to be like, okay, if I need to get rid of this, I need to now suddenly play like a ping on the previous turn just to prep that unit. That way, if I get the box on this one, I can do that one, or vice versa. It's a really hard matchup to play, but wow. That's all I gotta say to that. Like that was
yeah, just wow in general. it is quite something.
Now I've
seeing this all come together.
I feel like I have mixed feelings about the Victor Aphelios deck because I've seen like different variants of it. There are some that are like more mid-range based that are like running Winding Light. There are others that are like this one that like, hey, we're a little bit more burn. Let's go with elusive, you know, maybe invoke finish. And then others that kind of like only maybe gravitate to like, yeah, I'm really going for the invoke line rather than like kind of like a hybrid mid-rangey type style. Don't know how I felt about it. I played different variants. I'm like, it's all right. The only thing I will say though is that I feel like ballistic bot sneaks up on you. You realize that that's every round. So by the time you reach turn 10, if ballistic bot was dropped on turn 2, that's already what?
Like that can be 8 points of burn.
Yeah,
that can bring that up to a 9-3 if it is played every round.
That's a lot of burn. That's a lot of burn.
It is, yeah.
No, I think the only thing,
an 8-3. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the only thing we can say is that like if you're versus a deck that can't heal, then it's like, oh, okay, you know, it's not as bad, but regardless, like it is a threat that develops over time. Because I know I've been burnt out by 2, and I'm just like, I'm sitting there like just passing my foot, and I'm like looking at my HP, I'm like, I am dying, help! Where is it healing? Oh my gosh!
Someone give me some salve because I gotta say the spell burn. No, what is it? I gotta get some salve because I gotta help with this burn that's coming on through here. Burn salve to help me with that. I also think that if Danwind had been able to find a soul harvest earlier in the match, it would have removed the ballistic bot from that match, and it would have been a non-factor later on. But I believe we were forced to use off of the one that we got from Crescendum, no less. That was also a crazy hit. We also were forced to use the showstopper on that other ballistic bot, especially after the victor gets the spell shield. So the victor gets the spell shield. Now you have this other bot that's also really powerful that you didn't want to remove before, but you have to remove it anyway. And it's just like, man, life could have been so nice. Yeah, you know, like I could have been living large in this one.
If Victor didn't get the spell sheet, that would have been the quickest obliteration ever. Not letting it go through. It's gonna have to go, and I think that it really would have offered a little bit more time, maybe to like look. Okay, I'm surviving. I can block these. I don't really have to worry about Victor discounting stuff. You know, whatever the case may be, and we're doing. Hey, you know, we can live.
Also, sorry about that like little blurb that I had. I got distracted by like other things happening in the casters chat, and my brain could not parse the information out all at the same time while trying to talk. So that was my bad.
All right, we do have our next match though, so it's gonna be Shaddoll Drgn versus Kaedoo. So we're gonna go ahead and see that one. Let's take a look at these decks. What are we working with? Now, Shaddoll is running Samira Seraphine, Avelus, Victor, Zoe, and then the Jace Lux that we saw.
Correct.
Jace Lux I kind of like.
Jace Lux is a respectable Demacia list, but that's also just like my own. You know, we're not going to be biased here. We're unbiased casters. I think Jace Lux is a very respectable deck overall, just because of how it tells you exactly what it likes to do. And this looks like the mix that Puffball Panda was running in the top 64 of the Open that happened 2 weeks ago. So, very respectable list. Great mix of cards overall. Using a lot of new and old things. Except for the Eager Apprentice. That is a new one on me. A card that I have not seen around very often, but it makes sense. You hit that as one of early game. Hey, you have a nice little 2/1 blocker, and you get to refill 2 spell mana to get yourself to that turn 3 6 mana spell. But Shaddoll Drgn showing off as well just what this deck can do, and that is be a Demacia deck and have this really wide board of units that can then crush you. They can beat your face in and ping you down, and then you eventually use the champions as these late game burn finishers. Now, Kaedoo does have the Cosmic Youngling and the Ballistic Bot on board, but these are at 1 HP now after the Pale Cascade Shadow, considering the form up.
Do we do the form up? I feel like I feel like we could do the form up because we know that if we're you know keeping in mind the deck list for Kaedoo, a lot of the bigger removal is Sunburst, right? It's gonna silence our unit anyway, so it's not like we can use form up to save it. So if anything, we're more inclined to go for trades, right? Get rid of some of the engines that help Kaedoo achieve victory later on.
I am superior life form.
One of our producers, Orange Flame, posted in Caster's chat a screenshot from Twitch chat Danwind. So that spell shield was your fault. Yeah. Yeah, it was.
No, sorry.
I'll take full responsibility. Anyway, I mean we're seeing Kaedoo playing the same deck, the same recipient of said spell shield. Less of an intimidating hand comparatively, but I think that Shaddoll Drgn has or is lacking in something that the deck of Danwind did have, and that is healing. That is one of the problems that Jace Lux runs into. If you get burnt out early against Annie Jin and that sort of thing, that is where you can get crushed. And right now we do have 6 points of burn plus 1 from the ballistic bot. So 7 points of burn already pointed at this Jace Lux's face. It'll be a matter of how it's spaced out in order to make sure that Kaedoo gets the maximum value out of it. However, Shaddoll Drgn playing the mid-range plan right now. Jace Lux as well.
I feel nervous about when I know him versus a burn deck. I'm really nervous about taking damage. Like in this instance, we did have access to wow, why can't I think of the card's freaking name? It's right in front of me.
Which one?
The Thermogenic Beam.
Oh yeah, there you go.
I haven't seen this card in forever.
It was rotated.
But like we had access,
I don't blame you.
We had access to it, to be able to kill the elusive unit. That way we can save ourselves that 3 point of burn, because we know for a fact like we can't really block burn. But as you said, Shaddoll Drgn going for the more mid-range game plan, trying to swing as wide as possible. I don't know. We might see this elusive live. It might bite us in the end. Maybe, maybe not. What do we see? What do we see? Ooh, okay. We'll go ahead and save the ballistic bot. Deal 3 more damage to the Nexus.
Ballistic bot does get a lot of mileage here. I mean, going down to 9 HP against Jace Lux is a little bit intimidating, because that is one standard shock blast plus a Jace shock blast away from death. You do have healing. You do have the Cosmic Youngling bringing you back up. But how long are you able to rely on that? We're not exactly sure. Shaddoll Drgn does have removal. You do have Mystic Shots, single combats, Shock Blasts, Expliterators, whatever you need in order to make sure that you can keep this board short. And that is exactly what's being done now. One of these Cosmic Younglings eating a Thermogenic Beam to the face.
Now, I'm assuming here that we're going to play Jace. That way next, oh wow, when we end up drawing into another Jace, that's already going to give us access to Jace's spell, which is Shock Blast.
Okay,
ooh, ripping these Sunbursts.
Do you want ephemeral units, or do you want ephemeral units? Hey, do you want 2 more blockers, or
oh man, okay, Inspiring Light, not too bad.
Inspiring Light is good. Crowd Pleaser also not terrible. That can actually give you burst lethal in some strange instances, but I think Inspiring Light's going to be used here for more for the AoE buff for the board. I'm just playing into that. Those Demacia.
Okay. Oh, we do get the laser. Okay. Cool.
Yes. That's why you like running Formula in this list, actually, because you're like, okay, I drop Lux. If you can remove her, I have Formula. I burst speed, get a laser, draw 2 cards, refill my spell mana. And even though you remove my Lux, you can just see the power that this board has. We removed a ballistic bot. We have greater width. This Cosmic Youngling, while it is kind of drip feed healing for now, does also leave Kaedoo at a slight board detriment. Now that we have a Crescendum possibly coming down here, and then we have an Inspiring Light. No, actually, we're just going to use the Calibrum. Never mind.
Wow.
The Calibrum to remove the ballistic bot, remove that burn, and then we do also have Inspiring Light on top of it. This board is very scary, and there's not a whole lot that Kaedoo can do.
We're basically guaranteed taking 8. I mean, I guess we can use the Get Excited to kill one of the units, so we'll only be taking 4, but that's not something we want to do. You don't normally want to use your burn on the units. Ooh, and we're going to continue to develop. I like it. Because you can even play another Challenger unit. And at that rate, that's lethal. I don't think there's anything we can do about 2 Challenger units.
I wonder if you just go for Spectral Riders instead. Because that's 1 action, summon 2 units. You're just so much wider than your opponent. Nope, never mind. Both Challengers.
I can see it though. We can still do it. We can just get 1 more unit wider. Or even just play Jace and call it a day. Kaedoo gonna have to make a decision. We're either gonna play Aphelios. Yep, there we go. Into a weapon.
Has to be Calibrum. I don't think you can keep this board up as it is. Nope, Gravitum as well. Another option. Shaddoll Drgn doesn't want to develop into that Jace yet. But it'll give Kaedoo the opportunity to remove the Forge Worker, so we're still only taking 4, but losing the entire board for it, including an Aphelios, and we can't develop the Victor.
Wow.
I mean, all of these cards are... It's really not lining up well for Kaedoo.
It's tough, right? Because like when you're playing the Victor Aphelios deck against a control deck, right? You kind of, both decks are kind of just passing, and like whatever you play, you know? In terms of this matchup, right, we see how we're kind of playing like a, you know, Chase Lux kind of being this like hybrid of a deck. It has access to like kind of like just turning into a mid-range deck on you. And with that rate, you know, in Piltover, these units are 3 HP and up. That's really hard for the Aphelios deck to deal with because their units are really dealing what? 2 damage here, maybe 3 damage here, but that's your champions. You don't really have a lot of units that can trade into it well. And your removal isn't something you want to use on units. You want to use that against the Nexus. Yep, there it goes. Shock Blast. We could Tail Cascade to find healing. Gonna go ahead and opt for the surrender. That was a tough matchup.
Yeah. And I think that really goes to show off the way that Jace Lux also operates around multiple game plans, but really just kind of you see Jace wants to have 2 6-mana spells played in order to level up. You see Lux has to see 6-mana spell played to level up. And the immediate thought is, oh, I have to play 6-mana spells as quickly as possible. But we saw that Shaddoll understood the other part of the game plan is that you just play a mid-range deck the early game. Then turn 6 and 7 is when you can start playing the 6-mana spells because you'll get extra value on top of the pressure that you've been able to apply in the early game. Yeah. And that is where Shaddoll won that matchup. Kaedoo gets the Karma set with the Freljord Ionia version. Shaddoll has the deck.
Interesting. So that means that the deck that ended up being banned was Aphelios Victor Zoe. We just opt to not play into that kind of mirror.
I'm honestly surprised at the volume of players leaving up Samira Seraphine.
I feel like because it's been prevalent for so long, right? We've had basically a whole month of players being exposed to it. Maybe players are just more comfortable, like they know what it can do, they understand what they have to look out for. So I think it might, although yes, that deck like is bonkers and it can really do some things, I think it might come down to familiarity. I like understanding how to play the matchup compared to maybe if like your opponent brought a deck that you're like, okay, like I kind of think I know what you're trying to do, but I'm not too familiar with this. But
interesting pair of options here.
Someone sees Husk. I like the Husk.
Husk is good. Gives
Ooh, another Disintegrate.
Second Disintegrate. Does that even work?
We have a bunch. Okay, Inner Beast, yeah. We already have 2 Disintegrates.
Aha, but Kaedoo won't be expecting the 4th Disintegrate, right?
Exactly. Ooh, okay, gonna go do some damage.
Wow.
Cash in on that Pale Cascade for 0 mana. Now, funny enough, we could buff this Husk. Never mind.
Never mind.
Never mind. We're gonna go ahead and cash in on that Bladder Ravine, wipe everything. Would have been cool though if we got the Inner Beast onto the Husk.
Yeah, would have been. But no, doesn't work out at all. I'm sure that someone's tried to put Udyr stances on the Husk before. But wow, that sounds like a terrible idea.
Just saying, don't sleep on Udyr Evelyn now. Let me tell you something.
No. I'm just gonna outright say no to that one.
Now check this out, guys. Here's what's really awkward about playing Samira Seraphine into like a Karma variant is that both of you kind of play like control decks, right? If we want to remove things from Shaddoll Drgn's hand, there have to be units on board. There's very few spells that we can play that like don't require that. And now we're getting to the point where we're burning cards. It was burned.
Yeah, both players are just kind of eyeing each other up, saying, "Hey, are you gonna play something? No. You gonna play something? No. Okay, well, I guess we'll both burn a card." And Kaedoo definitely comes out worse on that trade. A time trick, you know, kind of sucks for Shaddoll Drgn, but a set, ouch. Here's another card burn, by the way. It's another set.
It's another set. We have to play cards. We have to play cards. We're burning. What if we burn a card at that rate? Nah, after seeing that, I'd honestly be nervous. I'd be like, okay, maybe I should start playing cards. But like, I understand why not, right? Because you don't want your opponents to be able to play their spells, because then that inhibits the Seraphine level up. But at the same time, you have to be careful because now you're burning through your win conditions. It's tricky. It's so tricky.
If we chant the Caster's Curse, we will make it so that Kaedoo burns a Karma on this next turn.
No!
You will burn a Karma.
No chancing.
You will burn a Karma. You will burn a Karma. Oh, okay, never mind. I was really hoping.
Why do I do this? No Caster's Curse.
That would have been the clip of all time. Okay.
we can't sort each other out. I balanced the curse.
No, listen. The content. The audience needs the content.
Listen. All right, this is looking much better now for Shaddoll Drgn, right? We have Seraphine, Samira, everyone's on board. We have cards that we can finally use onto these units to go ahead and get to the Seraphine level up, which, mind you, is very close. We're currently at 8 out of 9, just one more spell, which we have.
Wow. I mean, the Inner Beast will be enough, right?
Yeah, or even Inner Beast, even the Rune Weapon. The Rune Fragment, I should say.
It is definitely a case of too many passes, but I think Kaedoo's unfortunately drawn into a set of 10 cards that are extremely reactive. Mm-hmm. You have Notify, have finally Tavern Keepers, a Smooth Mixologist, but there's a point where you have to think like, hey, dude, you gotta play something here, and that is exactly the kind of pressure that Shaddoll Drgn is putting on board now. This card drop has to be answered by something, because that is exactly it'll be a Three Sisters here for sure. But is there anything that goes through that? Three Sisters has to use to Frostbite one of the Plaza Guardians, probably a double Inner Beast here to get 2 more points of damage. So you're losing net -4 right now. Which puts you at 15 HP. And then you can heal it back up with these healing units that you've been holding in hand, plus the health potion overall. So Kaedoo is on a decent stalling option right now. And because of Three Sisters in hand, or actually the Taco that they're hovering here, this isn't threatening death yet. But saying like, oh, we're not dead yet, we're only taking 15 damage is still a lot to consider, considering the mana that has to be invested in order to get that mana or that health back.
Yeah. Wow, it's such a fine line to like deal with, because I understand why we didn't. Wow, going down to 16. Okay, understanding we're not, like, just like you said earlier, we're not dead. Samira gets reset. But like, that's Mystic Shot. Like, we haven't even played a Mystic Shot, so at that rate, one Mystic Shot off the top, it's a wrap.
I mean, if Shaddoll Drgn had Mystic Shot in hand, that would have just been lethal off of the recall. Which would have forced the Three Sisters out. Or Notify, either way. So not exactly dead that turn, and thanks to no Mystic Shot doubling up from the Seraphine. Almost, I got it. My it's not Samira, it's Seraphine. The doubling up from the Seraphine there.
Yeah.
It wasn't exactly lethal right away, but you do have to worry. You always have to think about, okay, what do they have in terms of overhead, and what do they have in terms of unit removal? This double high note. Hey, Samira may have been reset this turn, but she's already back up to a C.
Jeez.
That Flare in hand's going to bring her up to a B. Then you play the Inner Beast, which is a new card because it hasn't been played yet, and it's not a main deck in this card. That's going to be a rally next turn on top of
We
this.
almost have we have a rally right now. It's happening right now.
Oh yeah, no, it's a rally right now.
The free. Oh my gosh. Okay. Well,
I forgot we hadn't played Flock this turn.
Yeah.
Who's gonna close up?
Okay. Well.
This is GG. We passed it, and like I don't know if like maybe playing the units earlier would have helped, but then like it seems like I think earlier we had to play units so we can avoid the burning of cards. And even though yes, that would have contributed to Seraphine's level up because our opponent has removal, it's better to do that because then if they don't use it, let's say they save the removal for later and you have blockers, then at least hey, okay, now we can suddenly block this damage rather than before we didn't have anything.
Yeah, I think what was it? Playing I feel that Kaedoo was trying to play too heavily into the idea of I can't play into their win condition. But Samira Seraphine, with the way that the deck is built, with the way that the deck operates, has a certain level of inevitability that really your best option is to try and overwhelm them. Like we saw earlier with the match played in White Room against Pedro.
Yeah,
we saw that White Room had that Misfortune Poppy turn. It didn't matter that they had Flock and Mystic Shot in hand. They were still able to use the board width that they had to keep rushing things down. And similarly with Kaedoo, sure, you don't get the value out of the healing from those units, but I think just having any unit or playing any card at a certain point would have been more valuable than trying to just go for that heal late game, because once your units do get removed, because you're trying to play around removal so much, that means you expect there to be removal. So when you play into it later in the game, you then get all that removed and allow the Samira Seraphine to rally on you because they've just been allowed to operate for free.
Yeah. That's a tough call.
It's a very tough call.
It's tough because like I get the logic. Like when I'm playing a Nivea or like a control deck into Seraphine, like I don't play anything. I just wait, right? They have to play into me, and thus like I can remove things. But I feel like I guess specifically with Ionia and Freljord, you don't have that many removal options. Like if I'm running Freljord Shadow Isles, okay, Soul Harvest, Quietus, Avalanche, Vengeance. Like I have all these other tools for removal that I can use, or even some spells in conjunction with one another. But with Freljord, it's like, okay, I have a lot of ramp, I have a lot of healing, but I only have, so much removal here and there. And with the robots being 6/6, right, Plaza Guardian being 6/6, and Seraphine being at 4 HP, it's hard to remove them when you're playing an Ionia deck, especially when you want to recall them. And at that rate, you can't recall them, right? Because the Plaza Guardians are 0 mana by the time they're becoming a threat, so they'll just get replayed. Seraphine, sure, you can recall her, but if they have any more unit mana, now suddenly they have another free spell. It's a tough matchup, and I feel like Samira Seraphine specifically beats the Ionia versions of like control decks, or at least is favored into them, I should say.
Yeah, it's really good into Rise Ionia, for example. It was something that I tested in like a scrim match once, and that matchup also felt unwinnable because the lack of interactivity and removal that Rise has overall just allows Samira to do whatever she wants in general. I think that I wonder if with this next patch that we have coming up, which will be coming out in 3 days' time, which I'm very excited for, I wonder if we see a nerf to Seraphine where we see her go down to 3 HP. Because 3 HP is much easier to remove, especially at 2 mana. You can play the Petrified Broadwing actually removes her more reliably. You have ways of killing her with Get Excited. You can use Raya the Arcane as it is right now, but then Raya the Arcane also guarantees that any sort of spell that she generates, which most 2 mana spells that can be generated are +1/+1 buffs.
Yeah, true.
Isn't out of the range of Raya the Arcane.
Yeah.
Granted, that's still in Eternal, but just thinking of all the removal spells that first come to mind.
Yeah. Now, I do want to say this, at least when it comes to standard format, for those of you who may have not seen it, the new cards that are coming out, we have Nidalee, and we have Nico, who have also been released with their support. There is a now Shurima card that is called I think the Vestayan something, I forget what the name of it, but it's basically Avenging Vestaya, and it's a new deny. And basically when you use the ambush mechanic and you hide it, when you finally reveal it to your opponent, it will deny everything on the stack like a right of negation. So it's interesting that we're now seeing the inclusion of more denial that is for multiple things on the stack. So that's going to be able to target things like, Jin Annie, or even more notably Seraphine, because we see how strong Seraphine is when she's able to really get it popping.
Yeah. Having Riot Negation against any of those sort of multiple spell stacks, the problem is that you're still running over, or decks that like to run a lot of burst speed are still running over you. I think that there's a lot of burst spell speed options in Samira Seraphine that you still have to worry about. But to be quite honest with you, having a unit that has a Riot Negation attached to it is a pretty potent tool. However, I feel that it's a little bit too reactive. It has to be played on some very specific turns. Right? Yeah, it does. You have the Avenging Vestaya. You play it as a 2-mana 2/2 as the Shadow in the Brush. But then your opponent just doesn't play spells the next turn. You're like, okay, well now I have to hold this 2/2 brush back so that I can use it to deny things later. Right? And so it just becomes a 2-mana 2/2 that becomes basically a dead card on your bench there. And sure, eventually when you transform it, it does do that Riot Negation, but you're not quite as flexible. You have to think like 3 turns in advance, like, oh, this is going to be their Feel the Rush turn that I have to play around or something. I think in those use cases, it's really good. But as it stands right now, while the card is good as a Riot Negation, the fact that it is a 2-mana 2/2 unit and doesn't have the flexibility of being a fast spell really brings it down. Yeah, I would agree with you. We are going to be going into our next match soon. We have Shaddoll Drgn versus Anfitriao. So let's. We already know what Anfi's bringing. We got Plunder, Old School, Gangplank Sejuani with a few of the new cards. We have Misfortune TF, which is going to be, we already know it, Pirate Aggle. So we're just bringing full on pirates. Like the whole pirate team's coming. And then, of course, Samira Seraphine, because it's busted. And then Shaddoll, we just saw play recently. Samira Seraphine, Avilios Victor, Zoe, and Jace Lux. Now, when we're looking into these matchups, what would you think is the bans for both players? I feel like, as always, right, it has to be Samira Seraphine. But we have seen players go ahead and let it through, right? Either A, because they feel like they can beat it, or B, because it maybe they're leaning towards it because it's more comfortable. They understand how the deck operates, and they feel like they can manage it with the decks that they're bringing. In this case, I'm not sure, right? I personally do believe in going for the Samira Seraphine ban, and then that leaves up Aphelios Victor and Jace Lux for Shaddoll Drgn, and then Anfi has to use either the aggro or the plunder into these matchups. What? We have a mirror match. Oh, I was gonna say I agree with you, but the spectator does not.
Oh no, not the mirror match.
So what I think honestly was banned away from Anfitriao is Plunder. And here's why. Jace Lux, awful, terrible into Plunder. One of its worst matchups. Oh yeah,
really?
No, it is genuinely one of its worst matchups. Just overall, because by the time that the Jace Lux combo is able to go off, that's when your opponent is reaching Plunder. You don't have really reliable ways, aside from finding early units, to prevent Plunder procs from going through. So let's say you play Lux, right? Next turn you want to play a 6-mana spell. Well, opponent plays a buffed up Sejuani who's been buffed by Spirits Unleashed. Your Hexbliterator no longer kills it. Your Lux is dead for another point. And then you have to then commit a second spell and keep chewing through stats that you really can't do, trying to be a control deck, but then just can't really keep up with the pace of this sort of mid-range list. That's why I think that has been banned out. Then you consider Aphelios Victor Zoe, a deck that really doesn't like to block all that often because they'd rather have these value units on board. So if you're not able to block that often and taking plunder damage consistently, that's, as they say in very sophisticated words, not good.
Not good. I mean, listen, speaking of not good, Shaddoll Drgn ended up I don't know if you saw, ended up getting Sputtering Song Spinner. So we already have our Plaza Guardians at 5, while Anfi's is currently at 8. So it looks like Shaddoll Drgn might just win this race because that's exactly what this is about to be. Oh, it's gonna destroy the follower. Wow, that was a good hit. That was a good hit off the Seraphine. Oh my gosh.
Hunt the Weak is not a card I expect. In fact, it's hard. It's not even a card, right? Who in their right mind has said it? Yes, today I will build this Noxus list, and I'm gonna bring Hunt the Weak. It's gonna be such a great comp. Like no one's ever thinking that, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't have to rhyme.
Interestingly enough, Anfitriao playing the discreet invitation to get the shady character in hand, but I don't think it was meant for copying a unit. Might have thought that Shaddoll Drgn's Plaza Guardians are at lower stats overall right now.
Anticipating them.
But it's not there.
I mean, I feel like at that rate, like you're not really too worried about having those units. Like if you get them, sure.
Yeah. Both of these players just playing that sort of value game that we were knocking on a little bit earlier. But I'm surprised that Shaddoll Drgn doesn't go for Flock there. Probably waiting for this attack to come through first.
Okay.
And now with Seraphine being damaged, even if she levels up, it's not going to be to great effect. So Death Lotus is played.
I want to play the Left Lotus. Like, all right, she's dead.
All right.
Let me get this card out of the way so I can contribute to the level up.
That's fair.
I did my best.
I
now
don't know whose hand I like more. I like Shaddoll Drgn's actually quite a bit.
Yeah, Shaddoll Drgn is a good hand. Yeah, Shaddoll Drgn is a good hand. Now, Anfi is able to deal with the Samira or the Seraphine. I'm not sure who you prioritize. I mean, you had Disintegrate, so you can kind of, that's how you get rid of the Seraphine, but if you want to get rid of Samira, then, you know, you'd probably do it now with the Mystic Shots. Don't know how necessary it is. Like now it's going to get tricky, right? We're on turn 7, round 7. Seraphine's about to come through. We already know that she's about to be leveled, right? She's currently at, she's at 7 out of 9.
These players just...
Because I feel like if anything, we do want to get the robots this turn. Ooh, Make It Rain. Okay, more burn.
Make It Rain is great. Anfitriao also doesn't know what Shaddoll Drgn got off of that.
Letting it rip.
Okay.
Letting it rip.
Beyblade time. Right? Yeah, okay, cool. Beyblade, let it rip.
Uh-oh.
Shaddoll Drgn does
Level up, level up.
Well, it doesn't... Well, okay. Seraphine still dies, but she is given 3 mana with which to do things with. Encore is found as well, so that could actually potentially do a little more damage here. With the Samira also possibly leveling up here?
We would have to get burst spells off of Encore. That's how we would do it.
And I think it's possible that we do.
That's the hand space for it?
The main out.
Yeah. Oh, we don't have the hand space for it.
Oh, and we get Lamb's
Lamb's
That's just insulting.
That would have been so good. Would have saved her.
Great patience from Anfitriao.
That's what you need. You need the patience for it. Get the robot hit in. Okay, okay. Yeah, we gonna have to deal with this though. Now we have 2 robots at Anfi's side, along with a Seraphine.
Lamb's Respite is played, because why not?
We have Disintegrate, Mystic Shot, Make It Rain. We have a Condense.
That was great.
Here we go.
Now
Running back.
Really bring it.
I feel like
I just sing.
Seraphine, Samira, in some of this matchup, it's more of a matter of who can have their champion on board last.
Okay. Oh, and we find Samira.
And we do find Samira.
We don't have
a
enough
whole
mana
lot
to level.
Flip her with either.
Yeah, not yet. We have a lot of cards to work with, though.
Unworthy.
Disintegrate, okay. I'm gonna go ahead and opt to take 6 damage. 6 damage is alright. Don't have too much burn. Oh, we do have block. We could have also cashed in the Whirling Death if we really wanted to, but we want to get the flock onto the Seraphine rather than the robots. At some point, like, someone has to block.
That is very true. You'll have to block eventually. Both players trading 6 damage there is kind of cute. Gonna use this double Caustic Rift to set up the flock. Make sure that Shaddoll Drgn's current Plaza Guardian doesn't get to stay on board. But the iterative improvement will make sure that it gets to stay. And oh, and hey, there's another Plaza Guardian anyway. So it's not pre-committed. You want to make sure that it goes through with the attack and play a little more reactive.
Pirouette.
Pirouette is a disgusting card that is going to get nerfed in the next patch. I can guarantee it for you.
Nah. They're gonna keep it. They're gonna keep it.
Keep it at 2 mana.
Listen. Unworthy Soul. Okay. We don't see it often, but when it is played, it is reducing the power of a unit by 4.
And it kills it if you have less mana than your opponent, which is not the case with this deck. But I did play. I still have nightmares about this match I played one time, months and months ago, against a Senna Nasus list. And they were running things like Rite of Dominance and
I'm screaming.
Unworthy and that sort of thing.
Yes.
Because they're fast speed spells. So Senna makes those fast speed. You destroy one of your mana gens intentionally to make it so that your Unworthy and that sort of things become fast, basically vengeance in the hands of Senna.
Yeah.
It was hilarious.
Look at this now. We have the rip of the Sputtering Stone Spitter. We have options. We did cash in the Pirouette, like we said earlier, that was going to happen.
Yep.
Oh, man, oh, man.
More. Goes in for the swing. Anfitriao has to know there's something up here. It's pre-committed, so Shaddoll Drgn's not going to be hiding anything.
Overwhelm?
So like, hey,
it is Overwhelm. Not that I don't think we necessarily need it right now, but...
If Shaddoll Drgn's playing around a flock in hand, which they're not, just assuming that they'll get this damage through, and they won't.
This is okay though, right? Because we could there's only 2 cards for our opponent. We have all of these cards available, right? We can even fish fight right now if we really wanted to. Oh no! What am I even saying? We have Unspeakable Horror and Make It Rain.
Yeah, we do.
Dusk Rider, okay. It's a beefy unit.
Dusk Rider is definitely a card here, and it is not one of the ones you want to see.
Like at this rate, Anfi's really hoping to get some draw. That's what we like in desperate need for. Ooh, we're gonna single combat this? Okay. So fish fight when you don't have the equipment acts as a slow speed single combat. We're gonna go ahead and get the strikes off. I wouldn't be surprised if we cash in the Mystic Shot here. I'm gonna go ahead and take the unit off the field.
We'll probably save it for an attack as well. Just make sure that our opponent is committing as many resources as possible before that sort of lethal strike comes through.
We already know what's gonna happen. It's gonna get punished by the Death Lotus.
Oh man. Death Lotus. I mean, it's gonna be Make It Rain even.
There's so many options. Hold up.
It's Make It Rain. There's Mystic Shot. There's Death Lotus, I guess, if you wanted to kill the Plaza Guardian, but...
Yeah, no, we don't want to do that. Ignore my statement. I was being silly. Make It Rain 100%.
Force the Mystic Shot. And also that does
5-4. Yeah, because we played other Nightfall cards.
Played a Pale Cascade earlier, I believe.
Now, at this rate, we really need a godly top deck. Oh, the Condense.
Wow.
And look, it still gets buffed.
Wow.
Yeah, GG. Didn't win with the champions, but we run with the board. The created cards.
I was going to say, if there was a Death Lotus there, I would have... Well, it would have still been lethal, actually.
Yeah, refuse the card. Mystic Shot.
Still dead to Mystic Shot. Darn. Was there a point where we could use that Mystic Shot earlier, you think?
Not really. that like I know we were really holding that, and like we had other removal options, but there wasn't really any way we were gonna have a good spot. Like if anything, we would have used it on one of the the units, but at that rate, like our opponent just refilled their hand, and I should say refilled their board. It's like, okay, like no, this is GG at this point. Like you said, it really came down to who can keep the champion on the board last, right? We already know at some point a champion has to come out. Why? Because you want the removal to already be used. That way, when you finally get the your last chance, and you're like, okay, they used all this removal, I can keep this champion on board. Let's get it. We're gonna get the combo off. And in this case, we saw how we ended up fighting Sputtering on Amphi. Not Amphi, Shaddoll Drgn. And we ended up going into just turboing our Plaza Guardians. And look at this guy. We get the matchup.
Oh,
Plunder,
we do get the matchup.
Into Lux. Hold up. If
this
that's
is the one
case,
that I was thinking wasn't gonna happen.
So then it's Misfortune TF that was banned. And it was the Aphelios Victor that was banned. Interesting.
I guess that makes sense. If you're playing MFT Twisted Fate and Gangplank Sejuani and Samira Seraphine, one thing you don't want your opponent to really have access to is healing, and that is what Aphelios Victor can do. And Jace Lux just, takes the bad matchup against GP Sedge, and hopefully for Shaddoll Drgn it works out, but just like a glass coffin, that remains to be seen.
I feel like I would thermal this. Yep. Go ahead and get that out of here. No open swing for you.
Mirai Warden goes crazy next round, though.
Yeah, that is true. Even if we play a blocker, we still are going to have something that's going to hit the next and proc that plunder effect. A 1-3, okay, not bad.
Drop border. I mean, it does keep you out of stats. Of course, Reggie can be played, though it is the only... I'm trying to look at Shadow's hand and see if there's any reason why you would delay for this turn.
I don't think we do. I think because you already played something on turn 1, you have to now commit it here, and then on turn 3 you have to save so you can get the Forge Workers down. We can't always stop the plunder, but when we can, we 1000% should. It's gonna be really important.
Absolutely. Taking 1 damage ping as well is not, at least it's not 2 damage. Mitigating your losses overall. Getting decent trades. The 1-3 being pulled there is pretty funny. Some of the nuttiest hits that I've seen as well from this deck are the Legion Saboteur,
Yeah. That's great. Definitely a great hit. Crack shot.
Crack shot Corsair. Anything that can ping your face with the skill. Which, funny enough, Crackshot Corsair would go really well for Anfitriao, because it does give them that guaranteed plunder ping every single attacking turn that they have.
Yeah.
Jagged Butcher's played here.
Wider. Interesting.
Yeah.
We're gonna be stealing next round.
That is. Could play the Forge Worker, hold up full mana next turn. Could play the Badger Bear, still have the mana in order to play a spell, and then refill the spell mana. A Shot Blast does pretty well. A Mystic Shot goes even better.
That's really good.
Hand.
All right, second steal.
Yoink.
Ooh, Pharaohs at 0.
Well, all right then.
Ooh, Pharaohs can get us some really spicy things.
Feel a Rush? Question mark?
Winter's Breath, Scrap Shot. Okay, went with Scrap Shot.
And Scrap Shot is there to remove champions, because that is one thing that Plunder doesn't really have quite as consistently. Removal.
Real good to see you.
But
now, I'm gonna trade that.
Ooh, sorry, I've been yawning a whole lot.
I think we do end up going with the Forge Workers. Got the Plunder off. Let's go ahead and check real quick. We're currently at 3 out of 5. 2 more rounds and we have the Gangplank Sejuani level up.
That'll be very doable. Anfitriao Mystic Shotting face to get this Jagged Butcher on board now. Want to make sure that you have that extra plunder stats, and you just swing in with everything. This does mean that Shaddoll Drgn will be taking a minimum of 4. Sejuani is going to be compounding that problem, And if Anfitriao was playing into a Hex Obliterator, that would be a problem, but I believe Shaddoll Drgn's only running 1-of in this list. So you can't really say like, well, I'm gonna play around a 1-of card and that's gonna ruin my chances.
You can't. It's really hard. Yeah, there's only a 1-of in this deck. You really don't want to play around that at all. At this rate, it is better to go for the swing. Now, something that would have been so juicy for Anfi if we were able to find that Spirits Unleashed, because now suddenly we are trading, you know, really well into everything and doing a little bit more damage to the Nexus. Now, no, like you said earlier when we were watching this matchup before, when Shaddoll Drgn was using Jake's Lux, it doesn't have healing. We're at 8. We have casted so many tournaments in which we have watched Plunder dominate, and it ends up just burning your opponent out. Whether it be with Warning Shot, Make Your Vein, whatever the case may be. It's a dangerous spot to be in, and this particular Plunder deck does run elusives, right? We have Zap Sprayfin and we have Grandfather Fury. So we can go for that kind of like elusive finish.
I'm a fan of this Shock Blast, though. It sets up removal even on a leveled... Whoops, sorry about that. Even on a leveled Sejuani. Scrap Shot is fired in return, so it's not that... I mean, same, right?
It's like, what? Who plays this card?
It's like worst Hex Obliterator in Bilgewater. That's all it is. The final spark to kill the Sejuani here, though. That value engine gone, and now... Even though Anfitriao has been able